Welcome back to Algebra 2 class. This is the last video of the year. It is a final review, and I'm not hitting on everything on the final. We just spent a lot of time on radicals, system of equations, and quadratics, so I'm not really touching on that. I'm a few things beforehand to talk to you about. And notice it says chemistry up there, and most chemistry, I gave you a review sheet, and you have your book, and there's no way I can stop you from using your book. So the only thing I'm going to go over there is how to balance an equation, in case you forgot how to do that. Everything else you should be pretty decent with. So I'll put that up here after I do these math problems. I'm extremely tired. I didn't get much sleep last night and not feeling too well, so hopefully I can get this done without too many issues. We'll see. I threw my book on the floor, so hold on. Factoring. Two types of factoring that are kind of, I guess, more difficult. So I wanted to show you to remind you how to do it. Is this one where you have higher exponents on it and then the hard trinomial, just to remind you. Again, go back and look at videos or back in the earlier pages. I think factoring starts somewhere around page 40. And just go back and look and remind yourself of the difference of squares, perfect square, easy trinomial. I'm not going over every single one of those. We've done that for 2 years. You should be able to do them. So factoring, when you have odd powers like this, especially 5, 7s, because cubes are a little bit special, but it does work with cubes, but 5, 7s, 9s, things like that, what you got to do is definitely pay attention to the sign, because depending on the sign depends if they're all the same signs or if they're alternating signs. But you make one parentheses, and you're going to take the root of each one of these things. So the fifth root is just the letters x and y, and then I was thinking those alternate. Yeah, if you have positive, then your signs are alternating, so you're going to get, this one's always whatever that is, okay? You're going to get alternating signs, which means and I'm going to need this space real quick. What we do is we go down, if this is a 5, we go down to the next exponent, x4, and we'll go x3, x2, x, and no x. There's going to be a term here. And then with the y, we'll start on this side and we'll go y4, y3, y2, y, and no y. Okay? If there are numbers on here, you got to take the root. For instance, this is x to the 4th, so if there was a 2 here, it'd be 2 to the 4th power, and you must do that math, okay? And then alternating, I want to double check if it, yeah. It goes, this one's positive, so negative, positive, negative, positive. And that's it. So if you had 7s, 9s, or whatever, you're going to start one exponent less, and you're going to go all the way down this side and all the way back up this side. If they're numbers, though, you have to do the numbers. So if there was a 2 here, it had to be 2 to the 4th power, which is 16, I think. So you'd have to write 16 there, okay? So that's how you do that, and there is one very similar to that on your final. Alright, hard trinomial, I'm going to erase this out of the way because I need this space. Hard trinomial is when this first term is not 1 and it doesn't factor out. 6, 13, and 6 have nothing in common, so we need to make a new middle term. When we make a new middle term, we go 6 times 6 is 36. And there's an x squared there. And we're going to say what multiplies to give me 36x squared, but adds to give me negative 13. So When I think about getting 36, I can do 12 and 3, which gives me 36, but it's not going to give me the negative 13. I could do 6 and 6, but that's not going to give me that either. That's only going to give me 12. So I want to do 9 and 4. All right. And what makes this one positive and this negative, they both have to be negative. Okay, so negative 9 times negative 4 gives me a positive 36, but if I add them, gives me a negative 13. I bring down my first and my last term, and then I factor by grouping. Factor by grouping just means you put parentheses around the binomial, the two terms, and then you common factor them. 6 and 9 both have a 3. That has an x, that has an x squared, so I can take one x out. 3 goes into 6 2 times. I took one of those x's. 3 goes into 9 3 times, and I took that x. All right, if there's a negative out here, it changes the sign in here. So this would be a negative instead of a positive now. 4 and 6 have a 2 in common. And if I take 2 out there, I'm left with 2x. And if I take 2 out of 6, I'm left with 3. Your parentheses should match. If they do, you know you're doing this right. Whatever repeats itself, the parentheses, you write one time as your answer. And whatever's on the outside of the parentheses, you write as the other part of the answer. So this is my answer. So that's just a refresher. No, I didn't slow down on that. We've done that all year long. And that is just to remind you, okay, so that you have something to look at in case you go blank there. The next little part is exponent and roots up here. And these are very simple, but there was a lot of rules on these pages, and this was about mid-year. So, and I forgot to put what I was doing here. This is a squared. When you're squaring or raising something to a power, one, you got to pay attention to the rule for the exponents, and two, you always raise the numbers as well. And if it's a fraction, you do the top, then you do the bottom. Since the whole thing is in parentheses, that's negative 2 times negative 2, so the top is going to be a 4. On the bottom, 3 squared is 9, not 3 times 2, 3 squared. And then when you raise powers to powers, you actually multiply. When we multiply exponents, we add them. But if I raise a power to a power, we multiply. In this case, it makes no difference because 2 plus 2 and 2 times 2 are the same. That's an a to the 4th. Okay, that's a 9. That's it. Okay. To write something without denominators, which means not in the fraction, it's got to get moved up. All you do is you change the sign of the exponents. If I want to write this, the top will stay the same. X becomes negative 3 exponent, and y becomes a negative 1 exponent, and you must write it. If you flip stuff from the fraction bar, that's how you change the signs of the exponents to be positive or negative, okay? Write with positive exponent would be to put it in a fraction. Everything that's already positive, which is x squared, will stay on the top. Everything that has a negative exponent will move to the bottom, and we will simply change the sign. Now this is z to the first, so I do not have to write that 1. I can, it won't be wrong. But if it's a negative, you do have to write the 1. Okay, so that is just a refresher. And the last one, even though radicals were fairly new, or it's not been that long since we did them, I just wanted to hit on this one. Anytime you have a binomial down here, you're always going to multiply by its conjugate, which is like the difference of squares type of thing. You're going to multiply by the same thing, but with a different sign. Whatever you do to the top, you must do to the bottom, okay? And then you have to FOIL those things out. Now the top's still probably going to have some radical, I don't know, but the bottom, the radicals should cancel out. So when I do this top and I FOIL, all right, first would be 5 times 3, so that's 15. On the outside, I'd have 3 times 2 radical 3, which is going to give me negative 6 radical 3. On the inside, I'm going to have 5 times a negative radical 3, which is going to be a negative 5 radical 3. And then on the last, I'm going to have a negative radical 3 times a negative 2 radical 3, which is going to give me positive 2, oh, you can't see that, positive 2 radical 9. Alright, I'm making a mess up here. So when I rewrite that top, I'm going to look at these. These are both radicals 3, so that's a negative 6 minus negative 5. So that is really 15 minus 11 radical 3 plus 2 times radical 9. The square root of 9 is 3. So 3 times 2 is what? 6. And so then I really have 15 plus 6. So right now on the top I have 21 minus, because 15 plus 6 is 21, minus 11 radical 3. Okay? Now, hold on to that, because now we got to FOIL the bottom. The bottom's going to FOIL a lot better than that one. First would be 5 times 5, which is 25. Then on the outer, 5 times negative 2 radical 3 would be negative 10 radical 3. On the inner, it's a positive, so this will be positive 10 radical 3. And on the last, a negative and a positive makes a negative, and that would be 2 times 2, which is 4, and radical 9. Okay? Now, the whole point of multiplying by the conjugate is to get these two terms to cancel out. Positive and negative 10 cancel out, and right now I have 25 minus 4, radical 9. Well, square root of 9 is 3. 3 times 4 is 12, so I really have 25 minus 12, which is what, 13? So my answer is actually this. Okay, as long as that's not in radical, you're good to go. Alright, I'm going to take a brief pause so that I can balance, put an equation up there to balance for chemistry. Okay, you may use your book, you may use your notes on the final. Just don't cheat and show all your work. Okay, welcome back to the Algebra 2 chemistry. I don't know why I said that. I just paused the video. I guess I thought I was starting a new one. This is the real quick balancing equations review that I want to do with you for chemistry class. I have 2 equations on here, and let me start by saying these things in the parentheses like this, they don't really mean anything to you. That tells you if it's a solid, liquid, aqueous, or gas, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and get those out of the way so that you don't worry about them, okay? We're only worrying about the actual elements, okay? So balancing equation is not unlike balancing equation in math, except for these are unbalanced. The ones we work with in math are balanced, and we have to keep them balanced. So it's not what you do to one side, you have to do the other. But however many of something you have on one side, you have to have on the other. So when we look here, for instance, we look at calcium. This is the first one. There's no number here, no little number subscript there. So we only have 1 calcium over here. We have 1 calcium over here. So right now, calcium is balanced, okay? If I look at, now the big letters mean that they're 2 separate elements, okay? So when I look at H over here, H2, I have 2 hydrogens, okay? But if I look over here, I have an H, and this 2 means the O and the H both have 2 here. So I have 2 hydrogens here and 2 hydrogens here. So I have 4 hydrogens over there and only 2 over here. So what I would do, you can never put little numbers in here, you can only put the big ones. I put a big 2 right there. This multiplies with that, so 2 times 2, that gives me 4 hydrogens over here. We still only have 1 calcium. Right now I have 2 and 2, so I have 4 hydrogens over there. And all I need to do is check my O. Now because there's no plus or minus, this 2 also goes to oxygen. So 2 oxygen over here. And then 2 oxygen over here. So that's all I needed to do, and that one was balanced. They're not always that simple, but this is a basic one. So I'll give you another one here. And again, I'm going to cross out the solids and the gas so that you don't look at those. And K is potassium. And by the way, this arrow, this yield, is your equal sign, so to speak. So I have 1K over here. This 3 is only attached to this O, and this Cl is one element, that's chlorine. Okay, so I have 1K over here. Right now I have 1K over here. I have 1 Cl over here, and I have 1 Cl over here. I have 3 oxygen on this side, and I have 2. 3 and 2, you're never just going to be able to put a number in front of one of them because the closest number 3 and 2 both go into is 6. So in this case, I'm going to put 3 over here and 2 over here. What that does is give me 6 oxygen over here and 6, 2 times 3, 6 oxygen over here. However, it changes my K and my Cl over here, so I need to make sure they're balanced. So now I have 2K over here, only have 1K over here. So I need to put a big 2 right there. So now I have 2 potassium, I have 2 chloride or chlorine, and I have 2 chlorine over here, and now I have 2 times 3, 6 oxygen over here, and 3 times 2, 6 oxygen over here, so I'm balanced. Okay, so hopefully that helps jog your memory of how to balance equation, and you just keep going. But none of them are usually really high. I think on one of the quizzes we had, maybe one went up to like 20 something. But when you get up into the hundreds, you did it wrong. I know that's not good grammar. But go back and start fresh, okay? I like to sometimes do checks and balances, so I'll say 2K over here, 2 Cl over here, and 6 O's over here. And then I'll check it and do the same over here. However, you writing this on your paper without writing those means nothing to me, okay? This doesn't mean anything. You have to put the big numbers up there, okay? All right, good luck. Have a good rest of your day, and God bless.